These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
And welcome to Target Center here. Phil Mackey, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad. This is Flagrant Howls. And oh my God, if you had Timberwolves smoke the Suns in Game 1 on your series bingo card, congratulations. But this was one of the coolest, I would say, Timberwolves history. Like, there's definitely some KG, the King series, obviously. There's been some really fun environments sprinkled throughout 35 years of Timberwolves history, Judd, but it was a vibe in here for 2.5 hours today as the Timberwolves take a 1-0 lead on a Suns team that destroyed them 3 times in the regular season.
Yeah, I think it's been 20 years since the Wolves hosted a first-round play or a first game of any round, and so that was great. The crowd was as expected. Like, I mean, these fans have been great all year. Now, this takes it up to a playoff notch. But I mean, these fans have been fantastic. But yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the expectation versus the reality, Phil, of what took place. Because I felt like, even me, I was trying to, and I know you did too for sure, calm the fans down. Like, that last game gets so you're left, and I mean, I've seen this in hockey as well, right? You close the season against the team that you're going to play in the playoffs, and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I mean, we didn't look good. Our team looked terrible. And you know what? The exact opposite of what many expected took place. And I mean, you got up and down what impressed me today, and the Ant third quarter, 18 points to tie a Wolves single quarter playoff high. But the contributions that this team got across the board from so many different guys, Rudy, Cat played his role extremely well. I mean, that to me, like, we saw, and there will definitely be adjustments made now, but we saw what the formula is, right? Like this is the formula, and part of it is just working your ass off, and the Timberwolves did a great job, and I give credit because I do believe that they fed off the energy of this building. It definitely helped.
Yeah, dude. I think, the energy, the energy from the crowd, but then the energy, and I'll use a word because you and I, the reason why we didn't go live right after the game instead of, like we normally would just go live, like Vikings Vent Line, right? But we're in the arena, so we wanted the arena to clear out a little bit so we could hear each other and so the audience could hear. We also wanted to go check on Chris Finch and see what he had to say about this game. And he used a word that was really interesting. He was asked about the 3 regular season games and sort of what the biggest difference was in this one, and then even like what can you carry over into games 2, 3, and 4. And he said, we've had stretches this season where we've played great basketball. We've played cohesive basketball. Lately, we've been playing mostly really good basketball, but today was desperate basketball. That they were playing with, he said, chip on their shoulder, but I sort of characterize it as like it felt like a Game 7. I mean, didn't it kind of feel like they were playing as if their season was on the line here today? Isn't that the vibe? That's the vibe I got watching this game today.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game was incredibly important to make a statement about the fact, and this is no surprise, that at every turn the 2023-24 Wolves have to prove themselves.
Yeah.
Like that's the ongoing sort of, to me, storyline of this season's team, and it's fair. I mean, this franchise has had opportunities in the playoffs in recent years. It's dropped the ball. When Phoenix blows them out on Sunday, I don't blame people for being nervous. My point was, hey, let's just wait and see, and what we saw was beyond our expectations. But yeah, I think that there's a definite desperation, and look, I mean, this game was not like 4 quarters of really pretty basketball, which I think is great if you're the Wolves. This was 4 quarters of, there were some moments, particularly Ant, that were very pretty, but it was also work your ass off basketball. I mean, this is how you win a series, and I think it's going to be why the Suns aren't flummoxed, because the other thing is now what you do and what the Wolves are going to have to get, and some guys do get this, but you now have to take Game 1 and say, repeat it, not just Tuesday, but to win a series, and then repeat it again, and it comes in different forms. I mean, adjustments are made, but the point is, winning playoffs is what we saw today, which is working your ass off and never allowing yourself to get too high, because until you've got that LOB in your hand, you haven't made it.
Yeah. I mean, let's start. We should just start going through the checklist of the things that stood out in this game today. I'll start with Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench as a plus 28 in the box score. He immediately, in his first rotation, and I think I want to say it was like 10 or 12 minutes, end of the first quarter into the second quarter, he drops 12 points in the first rotation. He was just a bolt of energy and lightning coming in. And we had talked all week long that it felt like a type of series where you're going to have to maybe limit some of the big man minutes. And I don't even know if they really did that. If you start to look through, it's like, Karl, we were looking at this before we went live. Karl averaged, 32 minutes in the regular season?
Yes.
He played 27 in this game, but the last 5 minutes were garbage time, and like Luka Garza was out there launching shots. So he was on track to play 31 or 32 minutes. Rudy Gobert played 37 minutes. Reid, a little bit of a downtick in minutes at 19. But I love that Nickeil played just under 30 minutes in this game. It just feels like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker series. The way that he can guard multiple different guys in that Suns rotation. And then the decision to put Jaden McDaniels on Devin Booker to start the game.
Yes.
And they put different guys on Devin Booker, but it just felt like from the get-go, Devin Booker, everything was hard for 2.5 hours. And I'm sure he's going to find a way. He's one of the best players in the world. I'm sure he'll have a game or two where he goes off for 30 points or maybe even 40. But, didn't it feel like Jaden McDaniels suffocated Devin Booker for the first part of the game? And it threw the entire – outside of Durant, who was just doing God mode things for the first half, it felt like everything else was really hard for that Suns offense.
So we talked about this a lot, at least on the Flagrants I joined you for last week this past week. But let's go through the things, too, that were different and adjustments, because they clearly were not going to unveil those a week ago in a regular season game, and nor should they have.
Yeah.
But I thought the one thing was I think that we talked about, Jaden McDaniels is going to have to be glued to Durant. Chris Finch said, oh, no, Durant's going to get his. What we're going to do is we're going to take away Booker. And so Devin Booker will have, I'm sure, in game 2, just for a reference point, he was 5 of 16 from the field today and 2 of 6 from 3. He's going to have a better game, but nonetheless, what McDaniels did is what McDaniels does. Like that was not Booker just had a bad game and he's going to, no, I'm sure he'll be improved. But what Jaden McDaniels did, in my opinion, is what he can do. And I sort of love this. You know what? Durant's going to get his 30 plus. He just is, right?
Yeah.
So instead of saying, as we talked about, try and take away Durant, they sort of said, okay, we're going to do what we can on Kevin, but we're not going to allow anyone else to chip in to beat us. I can see that, and now the Suns will have to adjust to that, but I can see that as a really solid, as we talked about, what adjustments, what's going to be your formula to potentially win. What we saw today makes a lot of sense, and the thing with Jaden and Na is nothing they did is things that they can't do, and it wasn't just like a hot hand game. It's how hard they bleeping work, and that's how you win.
Yep. I want to respond to 3 different things you said. So we're gonna put a pin in the sort of the what is sustainable conversation, because I think that's a good one. Mm-hmm. But to your Kevin Durant point, Karl-Anthony Towns started the game. And by the way, huge props to Cat in this one. I think this is one of Cat's best playoff games the last couple years. I mean, he's had some clunkers, but he seemed largely dialed in. Early in the first quarter, they made a concerted effort to get him post-ups against Kevin Durant. The first 2, immediate double team comes. He makes the right pass. One of them swings around for a wide-open 3 in the corner that was missed by Jaden McDaniels. The other one was an over-the-shoulder pass to a cutting Rudy Gobert for an easy 2. But on the Durant thing, so Cat guarding Durant and Jaden McDaniels guarding Devin Booker, you might think if somebody were to have said that to you, you say, well, why wouldn't you put your best defender, Jaden McDaniels, on their best Hall of Fame offensive player, Durant? Well, because Kevin Durant has been in the playoffs for a decade and a half, and he has led the playoffs in scoring in about half of those seasons. I mean, he literally averages 30 points against anyone, anywhere. He's going to get his. He's unblockable. So why waste your best defender on him when he's going to get 30 or 35 points anyways? Why not use your best defender chess piece to make life miserable for the second guy, Devin Booker? I love it. And, Cat had some contests early, and, of course, Durant, because he's Durant, just rises up and makes them anyways. But I think it's going to be interesting how Phoenix sort of counters, and I don't know what the answer is. But there will be a counterpunch. But it has kind of felt like as they shut the lights off on us here inside Target Center.
Not on me. You can still see me. I mean, look at this.
Weird.
I'm clearly a long ways away from you.
I said
Keep
this
that
to
light.
you early in the week. Like, it felt like the Wolves, we hadn't seen the counterpunches yet and the counter strategy.
Yes.
But it has kind of felt like there's at least 2 or 3 levers the Wolves can pull with how deep they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many levers the Suns can pull outside of, hey, Hall of Fame players, go crazy and score 35 or 40 points, which, by the way, is possible. But
Right.
but after watching this game, I don't know that it's possible 4 times in 7 games.
And here's what I think is in the Wolves' favor about this too. It's the spacing of days between games. Because if you were to bring them back tomorrow, or you were to bring them back in 2 days and say, okay, repeat that, it's going to be tough. And I'm certainly not saying that the Suns can't come back, because they can. But my point is, you got till Tuesday now, right? So, like, for how hard guys work, you've got that time for them now to rest and get some time off. And the nice thing is, you know what? The Wolves, they play a pretty deep bench, too. Like, there's just a lot of things. And this is why this whole thing of, well, it's going to be a sweep, the Wolves are really, really screwed. To me, they could lose this thing, but this was going to be, I think we all agreed, a series that was going to be incredibly tough, probably long. Let's get back to Ant, though, because I looked at you early in the third, right before he hit and started to go crazy. And I said, well, it's impressive that they lead, because Ant has had, for him, not a great game. Like, at that point in time,
4 turnovers early.
Yeah, and he was scoring some points. I mean, it was not a dud. It was not a bad Cat playoff game where it's like, oh my God, he disappeared. But it was not a great game. And then he flipped that switch. And we talked about this, but how about the look in that dude's eye when he starts to? But I mean, think about that. Like, that is what makes a superstar. That's what makes a Justin Jefferson.
Jim Pete in the house over here, by the way.
Hey, Jim. That's what makes a Kirill Kaprizov. Like, when you see that look, which is, I want to destroy you. And Ant does it with a smile. Like, he does it very friendly. I think guys love him. He trash-talked Durant, and it was my opinion that Durant was like, hey, this is sort of funny.
Yeah, Durant kind of laughed at him. And it was friendly from Ant, but, dude, like that, you said the look in his eye, it was, I saw Kendrick Perkins throw a tweet out. People mocked Kevin Garnett for saying, I think he said 85 Jordan, and then they were talking maybe 89 Jordan. Whatever you want to say, like late 80s Jordan was on display inside Target Center. He took that game over in the third quarter. He brought the life back into the arena when Phoenix was making a little bit of a run. They cut the 13-point lead down to 4 or whatever it was. And then some of the defensive plays, the strip and the dunk in the fourth quarter too. Yeah, he's just at every single turn in his young career, including game 1, he has risen above the level of his even regular season performance, which has been outstanding the last 2 years. And he is a riser to the moment, we are finding out.
And how impressive, too, is it that he can be having a solid game or for him, a not a great game. Yeah. And then it flips. Like we've seen a lot of guys who, if it gets off to a bad start, it's sort of like curtains. It's sort of like, okay, and then they'll have a great game, but it's a great game. This is one where it's just like, okay, screw this. Now it's my time. And he starts knocking down shot after shot after shot, and it takes over the building.
Yeah. Dude, there's a wild card factor here that, we went through the exercise of ranking the top players in the series before the series started, which was part of the uphill climb for the Wolves. It's like, okay, you just got smoked 3 times in the regular season by this team, and you're looking for silver linings, and you start to rank the players in the series. It's like, okay, well, Kevin Durant's the best player in the series. Until proven otherwise, Devin Booker is the second best player in the series. And then you get to your Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert probably 4th, etc. But the wild card here is Anthony Edwards is an ascending superstar. He's not going to peak for like 3 or 4 more years, but he's going to continue to climb in increments. And is there a wild card factor here that Anthony Edwards becomes the best player in the series. I think he was the best player on the court tonight. Bad turnovers early, but energy, rebounding, making the right pass, taking a game that was getting close and opening it back up in the third quarter. I mean, Durant was Durant, so don't get me wrong, but if there's a chance Anthony Edwards could become the best player in this series if we get this version throughout the entire next 2 weeks.
It's an interesting point because I think the best way I could articulate it is the fact that if Ant hadn't come on, like if Ant had just continued to have the game that he was when I so stupidly now said, hey, he's having an okay game but not great, the Wolves still win this game. What they don't do is they don't make a statement. Like this is a statement. Like the Suns are going to if the Wolves spent the past 5 days like, oh boy, we got we got beat on Sunday. We've been beat 3 times convincingly by Phoenix. If the Wolves spent 5 days trying to adjust because they doubted themselves, if you're the Suns, you're doubting yourself right now. Now I think you'll be fine. But the point is, Ant's game today to me took a game that was a really solid game. A lot of guys contributed, and he just put a huge exclamation point of, now we're going to knock you out. Yeah. It's like he came off the bench, or it's like he came out of his corner in a boxing match and just delivered a right to the Suns, and they went flying.
It was Thanos, man. I mean, he has that level to his game where he can just he can take a close game and make it a blowout, or he can take you from down 15 or 18 points and all of a sudden, boom, now it's a tie game single-handedly. By the way, a couple things. Producer Ross is working behind the scenes here, just giving us some of the quotes from like the Suns locker room. And by the way, Ross, you can put some comments from the audience on the screen too from time to time. We'd love to just respond to people. And if you are hanging out with us here, which it looks like there's about 1,500 of you hanging out on the Score North YouTube channel for this live Flagrant Howls inside Target Center, please click the like button and the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel. I saw Kyle Tighe, throughout the game. He's here, so we're going to get him on.
He's famous
throughout these playoffs.
He's talking to your guy Kilborn. He's talking to Lori. It's like Kyle owns the place. He walks in there.
I think Kyle and A-Rod spent like 10 minutes talking to each other in the tunnel over here. I think A-Rod went in for a hug at one point.
Mark Lori was here.
Yeah. Dude, the uncomfortableness. At one point, pretty sure Glenn Taylor stared down Mark Lori as he walked from the tunnel around.
And by the way, and we both at the time said this, but how much did today prove that the players and coaches do not care about like who owns the team? This is a complete mess.
But did you notice like Anthony Edwards 3 or 4 different times, and even Karl, they'd make a big play at that end of the court, and then they would turn to Alex and or Mark, it looked like from my angle anyways, and they do like the flex and stuff. I didn't see them turn to Glenn at all.
I saw Anthony walk right by Glenn, but my point is, I saw
Kyle Anderson hug Glenn in the tunnel today. So
that's because you know why? That's because if I went and hugged Dan or Ginny, I want my job, and so bosses, I'm just like, I'd go hug my boss too if I was slow-mo.
Just going through some of these locker room anecdotes from Ross here. So Rudy Gobert after the game, because obviously that's another narrative here that
we should get into
Rudy
this.
Gobert gets played off the court, especially when teams go small, right? He gets played off the court. And there was a moment late in the first half where the Wolves had built a 10-point lead and with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. And the Suns pulled Nurkic and put essentially Durant at the 5. And I don't have my notes open right now, but I think it was a Durant, Beal, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal. And Royce O'Neal. They basically had 5 guys who shoot 40% from three-point range.
Yep. With
Kevin Durant as the big. And they were trying to catch the Timberwolves for a couple minutes with 2 big men on the court. And guess what happened? The Wolves went zone right away. They forced a couple turnovers. They essentially let Phoenix dribble into passing lanes, into the length. They essentially let the Suns come to them in some way. Mm-hmm. But those Utah perimeter defenses were such a train wreck for a couple years, and it all kind of got lumped on Rudy that, Rudy's the one that's, out of position, this, that, the other. I don't know, man. When he gets a chance to play with Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and by the way, there was a couple possessions where it's like Rudy's out there with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on the pair. So Rudy after the game said, "I'm comfortable guarding anyone. I trust my teammates to compete the same way." This one today was I think a blow to the Rudy gets played off the court in the playoffs against small ball lineups narrative.
Chris Finch, in his post-game presser, also had an interesting quote when asked about Gobert's defense. He says, Rudy cares a lot, and he takes it personally. And that, I thought, was a perfect quote for this entire team's defense today. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, it's an effort thing. It's an effort thing, and it's like and Gobert, I think Gobert is desperate, and he should be, to end the narrative that he is somehow at fault for playoff failures.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could see it from the outset today. In fact, what he and, if I'm not mistaken, to begin the game today, he and Ant ended up switching on Durant. And, like, the first possession for the Suns, Gobert ended up on Durant. And it didn't go particularly well, but he was working his ass off. And that's the thing. Like, you can tell that this is not I'm talented, I'm a talented big. This is I'm going to work my butt off. And what was the final here as I look? He led all players with 16 boards, including 6 on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
And
14 points on
too.
6 shots. 14 points.
Yeah.
With the free throws, obviously. 6 of 7.
And that's a key thing, too. The free throws. I mean, this guy has traditionally not been great there, and he was fantastic. So I thought Gobert really sort of encapsulates why the Wolves won, which was, they got some great games, but more importantly, I just thought a lot of guys really, really worked hard. And, like, this is what Finch, in fact, pregame was asked in his presser. He was asked, what's gone wrong in the 3 games with you guys against the Suns? It's been pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, we haven't really shot well. We haven't played defense. We have turned the ball over entirely too much. He just basically said, we've sucked. So if that's what you want to hear, that's what I'll tell you. And that is definitely changed.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about Naz Reid a whole lot here, but there was a couple just like classic Naz Reid moments where the ball swings around. He doesn't have a ton of daylight, but he pulls a quick trigger and knocks down a big 3. He had that one play in transition where he puts a little Euro step on, takes the ball like Julius Erving, like loops the ball around the defender and then does a reverse layup, and the crowd, just the arena roof blew off on that one. From Royce on Twitter, watching the Suns post game, the Suns. Let's see here. The Suns post-game, like their commentators. They want the Suns to punish Minnesota for their physical play by driving into contact and drawing fouls. That is one thing. I mean, the Wolves there were some questionable calls, I thought, today, but, like, Karl had 4 fouls toward the end of the third quarter. Mm-hmm. Didn't Conley pick up 5 fouls? 5. I'm pretty sure. This was not a great Mike Conley game.
Very weird game.
Probably bounce back. Yeah, I guess they were also saying that just very impressed with Ant-Man, Rudy, and Nickeil, and they're very concerned about Grayson Allen's ankle. Kyle Anderson also went out in the first half, did not come back. I heard behind the scenes it's a hip situation for him. I don't know how bad it is, so that's something to keep an eye on, just for depth purposes. Yeah. But, those are kind of your updates
also
on the Sun side.
In the third quarter, at one point grabbed his left side, like his ribs, and it looked bad for a second, and then it sort of passed, and he stayed in. So I don't know if that's like something that just hurt immediately and is not a concern. If that, now that the game is done and his adrenaline slows down, is going to be. I think if slow-mo is out, depth-wise, that's not great, but I don't think that he was going to impact this series. If Na is slowed down in any way, that definitely does, because what he did today was instrumental.
Yeah.
And you talk about a guy who as you were talking about during the game, was a throw-in in a trade, sort of just a nothing throw-in. My God, was that impressive.
Let's go through here on both sides and try to decipher, because again, this was just an absolute thrashing, man. 120-95. It was fairly close early on, and then the Wolves just opened it up toward the end of the first half, and there was a little bit of a blip in the third quarter, but I mean, the Wolves were the better team. But how many things on either side of the box score do you feel like are unsustainable going forward? Because I mean, I'm just kind of looking through. I mean, Devin Booker is not going to get bottled to this extent for the entire series.
Yes.
But Mike Conley is not going to go 2 for 12, hit 0 3-pointers, and have 5 fouls and be a -8. Like, I don't think he gets played off the floor.
Third quarter especially, what was the amount of misses by the Suns, and this is not in the box score, at the rim? Because that's one thing, and the Wolves did a really good job.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, the Suns missed
they're
some
seeing
open,
ghosts, man.
open shots.
But this is what happens to teams against the Timberwolves, especially when Gobert's out there. Like, you tend to rush shots at the rim, or there was one, I think it was Eric Gordon, where he just he got a rebound wide open under the hoop and just kind of freaked out and threw the ball up without even jumping because he thought Rudy Gobert was coming.
Yeah.
So some of it's just the Timberwolves and Rudy Gobert, roaming around and making you uncomfortable at the rim.
Yeah, but you're not going to be they're going to have to also, as the series carries on, start to make some of those shots. They're not going to make them all. But I mean, that was I mean, just off the top of my head, I would say that they missed 5 bunnies in the third quarter alone, and you're going to make some of those. But yeah, I think the defense on Booker was absolutely great. He didn't have a good night, but there's a reason why too. Like that's the thing.
He didn't just miss shots. It wasn't
exactly.
Just
he didn't
shots.
just he didn't just say, "Well, boy, I suck and I can't make shots, or I'm going to struggle." So, I do think that he is going to have better games. I don't think that the Wolves are going to exactly say, "Okay, we stopped him in game 1, but we probably can't in game 2." As long as the effort, intensity, and the same guys come to play on Tuesday, they are going to cause problems, and it's why my opinion is the uglier the games, the better.
Yeah. Some of the other things, sustainable or not, just on the Phoenix side, I mean, Grayson Allen, we'll have to find out more about his ankle situation, but he didn't make a 3-pointer. In fact, he didn't even get a shot off until late in the first half, if I remember correctly.
He looked really shaky. Yeah.
So yeah, he was. I mean, obviously, I think he wound up leading the entire league in 3-point make percentage with a 47% rate. Mm-hmm. But on the Wolves side, here's the thing. I mean, Anthony Edwards, yes, the efficiency, 14 of 24. You're probably not going to get exactly that type of shooting percentage every single game this series, but 33 points, some rebounds, some assists, some defense. This is playoff Ant. I don't think anything he did today was wildly unsustainable in the series. I don't think he's going to turn it over 6 times every game, so that probably comes down.
Yep.
Karl was really efficient. He winds up with 19 points on 9 shots, grabbing rebounds, making the right pass out of the double team.
Oh,
That
one pass was gorgeous to Rudy.
Yeah, the over the back pass.
First half. Oh.
This was just if you're going to get this version of Karl throughout the entire series, huge win for the Wolves. And Gobert, I mean, 14 and 16, efficient in terms of the shooting percentage. I don't know. Nickeil, you could say, okay, wow, the dude came in, scored 18 points off the bench, but they ramped up his minutes. He played 30 minutes, and this is going to be a Nickeil series. So I don't know. This is the good news for sustainability. I don't know if the Wolves have very many outliers where you'd say, boy, yeah, it's great that they won the game, but good luck getting this repeat performance from these 3 guys.
I think it's more about the Suns and Vogel adjusting. I think it's more about that because I do think again, because there is sufficient time off between games, I do think that the Wolves, the only thing that would bite them in the ass is being tired, which they shouldn't be. I do think that just as we talked about, the Wolves would adjust from Sunday's game to this game. I think the Suns will adjust some things. But that being said, I mean, this should be a 6 or 7 game just heavyweight fight. That's what's.
Or will it be? Or will it be?
You can wave your flag.
Or will it be?
I gave you a towel. You can wave your towel right now.
Forget
you can wave your towel. Don't know.
I'll wait for game 2. If they go up 2-0, then I'll wave the towel here.
But I just think that there was a lot of things to really like. And let's go back to Cat, because here's the thing with Cat, too. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And I think some people think we don't like Cat. And some people definitely got offended at times when we said this isn't Cat's team, it's Ant's team. And that whole storyline is a little bit cliched because of the words. It's his team, it's not his team, blah, blah, blah. But didn't we see today in action what you want, which is there was never a time in this game where it was put in Ant's lap. There was never a moment when you're like, if Karl doesn't go on a run here, this team's in trouble. And I thought that I would call this roll Karl today. role, R-O-L-E, Carl. He had a role, and he played it masterfully, and he is a very talented basketball player. So when he does his role, it's absolutely instrumental to a win. But I think today is a demonstration of what we've been talking about, which is, well, it's not Carl's team. What does that mean? It means when Carl can play his role, when he's slotted in, when the piece of the puzzle that's Carl is slotted in correctly, and you don't ask him to, oh my God, save our bacon. I think this was it. I really do.
And he was like, I thought too, he looked a little jittery early, just like some of the there was a couple moments where it looked like he was sort of feeling, even like pregame, you could tell he was like really amped up. Maybe jittery is the wrong word, but I thought he really settled in and he channeled his emotions. Sometimes he gets into this funk in other playoff series where he's channeling his emotions in a negative way, and it gets into sort of the flailing, whining, stray voltage, as some people have coined it. I thought tonight, I mean, it was a lot more honed and focused, and then big play and one. Now the energy comes out, and it's more of a positive energy. So major props to him. A couple other things from the locker room here. So Anthony Edwards on the Kevin Durant trash talk clip that's going viral, as he's backpedaling down the floor and he's just thumping his chest and he's just in Kevin Durant's face. And Anthony Edwards said, quote, "I think everybody here knows that KD is my favorite player of all time, so that was probably one of the best feelings ever in my whole life."
And it did look like that, though. Because
Yeah.
KD did not look mad. Like
he didn't take it personally.
Yeah. But I mean, but this is this is what makes him. He's got, there's no question, some pucket to him. Because opponents love pucket, right? Like this doesn't look like it's this personal, like he trash talks, and it's great. And and he wants to beat your ass bad. But it's got that pucket sort of like, oh my God, you are really good, and I respect that, and you're a decent guy, like you're fun to trash talk with. It's just one of many things that I thought made today so much fun. I mean, this building was just so much fun. It didn't only live up to expectations. I think it exceeded them, and I had high expectations coming in. So just to be clear, I had high expectations. I think it exceeded those expectations.
Yeah, me too, man. It was, I don't know, it's hard not to have the hair on the back of your arm or the back of your neck stand up. And it was like 15 minutes before the game, and the whole place is packed. The tarps are off the upper level sort of sections that they've kept those tarps on, the white T-shirts, the white out. Like 15 minutes before the game, and this place was bumping.
Dare I say Metrodome game 163 in 2009?
It felt, it felt that way. The energy.
That intensity, the energy, yeah.
And it wasn't, even when the Suns are making a run, like we've talked on all of our shows about the nervous Minnesota fan energy, sometimes that creeping death feeling in these situations. You just know that something's going to go wrong. Timberwolves fans feel different the last couple of years. It almost feels like, first of all, it's a really nuanced, smart crowd. They like the little things that they will cheer for. The ovation for Nickeil Alexander-Walker when he gets in the game, knowing that this is a key player in the series when he checks in for the first time. And I think even when the other team starts to make a run, it's like the fans, they try to lift the team up with encouragement as opposed to getting quiet and sinking into their seats like sometimes we do.
Yes.
With Minnesota sporting, playoff events.
Yes. Exactly.
Anthony Edwards on Rudy Gobert. It was fun to watch Rudy go out there and showcase the Defensive Player of the Year stuff.
Yep.
It was dope, as Ant said. Tyler Anderson in the YouTube comments says he loves your sweater, your little quarter zip there. Did you get that from Eli or Peyton Manning? Oh, okay.
Dawn bought it for me online, and it showed up, and it is
online.
comfortable as can be. It's fantastic. I didn't
Looks
even
very
have to go to the
cozy.
store to get it. It's very cozy. It fits really well. Not too snug. I hate snug stuff. There's nothing worse than a sweater that's snug on you. Ugh, I hate that.
Hey, let's go through a list of celebrities that were here. So Adrian Peterson was here courtside.
Yep. Baseline.
Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Brian O'Neill.
Josh
Metellus. Craig Kilborn, our guy, friend of the show here on Flagrant House.
Yep. We saw a picture of Kaprizov, Zuccarello,
Brodeen.
Greenway.
Greenway.
But he walked past us. But yeah, it was and I mean
A-Rod and Laurie, obviously.
Yeah. Now you had expected, or hadn't your Justin Herbert in the crowd, Brett asked. No, it was too expensive for him.
CTESPN is reporting that.
You know what's
We'll see,
funny
we'll see,
is
dude.
you can't completely dismiss it. So
Well, no, hell, I mean, we read
That
an
makes that fun.
anonymous. We'll read anything on Purple Daily. We read an
that
anonymous
right.
email a couple weeks ago that said, "Keep an eye on Justin Herbert
yeah.
to the Vikings."
But you know what this is? So for all of the Wolves fans who actually care about like credit and national attention, right?
This is how you get it.
This is how you get it. Exactly right. You don't get it in December. You don't get it
You
in
do it
January.
by beating the brakes off of Hall of Famers
in
the
standalone
playoffs.
games. In standalone games, because if you are a basketball fan, there was only one game on this afternoon after Cavs and Magic, and it was this game. So like if you're like, well, Ant doesn't get the attention he deserves, ladies and gentlemen, if he continues to play the way he did today, you will no longer have to worry about him getting attention.
Someone's saying here, Anthony Edwards one GOAT in the comment section that AP is in the locker room just down the hallway here right now.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure. Oh, the guys love him.
Yeah.
He's
He looks
a hero.
great, by the way. He's like 38, right? 30s,
You called it. I've said it. UFL. Go to the UFL. I know you don't
Yes.
want to, but you know what, dude? Go to the UFL. People will watch. You'll get paid more. You know what? He's going to go to, ideally, in his world right now, he's going to go to a training camp and probably get cut
Is
this summer.
Is someone going to bring him to a camp, do you think?
Well, I'm just saying he wants to, and so like a team might say, okay, you can come in. But if you go to the UFL,
The UFL should have like
You're
we're
a
a total
star
side
there.
street here, but like the UFL should have some sort of pool, obviously higher than like the normal players get paid. Where like you have one slot per team that's like funded
Ooh.
by the league,
like a veteran,
and it's
like
like
it.
and it's a guy you can make like $200,000 instead of $50,000, and you like Terrell Owens or Adrian Peterson. You know?
I love this. But yes, but AP athletes love him because I mean he was a freak.
Yeah.
His
So, hey,
abilities.
any other just final – God, we're almost 40 minutes into this thing from Target Center here. Any other final thoughts from you? We will be obviously much more content here in the coming days. Game 2 coming up on Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday, Friday.
My final thought is I'm glad we're now past the point of being afraid that the Wolves were going to lose in 4 games and oh my God, and the season's going to be disappointing.
Pretty quickly it's flipped from like, oh my God, are they going to
Can
get
they
swept
sweep?
to can they sweep?
Can
the
they
Suns?
sweep?
That's great. Yeah.
But I mean this unleashes the ability of the sports fan in this state to sort of put behind them, at least for now, this oh my God, I'm nervous about this. It's going to be terrible. It's typical to actually unleash. And I think the unleashed sports fan in this state, and it's been a long time, but I saw it in 87. I saw it 91 with the Twins, the North Stars, Wolves here, circa 2005. It's a lot of fun. And I feel like we saw that as the margin increased today. I'm not saying like you might want to tone down the next time Durant's at the free throw line on overrated. You might not want to do that, but I love that sort of brash. Yeah, we're loud and we're here, and that's what we got in the second half, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yes, yeah. So that's a wrap here for this live edition of Flagrant Howls on the Score North YouTube channel. The sports dad, Judd Zulgad, in his gray quarter zip. We both kind of hedged. I had a black getup on, and I'm like, oh, they're doing a whiteout. You know, they kind of frown upon cheering and being a fan in media row. So I kind of hedged and wore gray, so it was a little closer to a whiteout.
It's a nice look.
Thank you.
I think you look absolutely fine. Yeah.
It's a Faraday, soft cotton,
Ooh,
polyester blend.
very nice.
Might be a tri blend of some kind. I'm sure.
I'm sure it is.
So, anyways, that's a wrap from Target Center here. Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.